This conference will now be recorded.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ryan. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Mitchell County Board of Supervisors meeting. It's available by GoToMeetings as well. Monday, January 6th, 2025. First up, Sharon.
I feel like I'm a long
sorry.
way from you guys.
I missed something, sorry. Approve the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, now you're up, Sharon.
Go.
Yeah, I guess I can open things up. Everybody has probably seen my budget asking for this year. And kind of an overview for Pam and everyone else, I guess. You can see that the sheriff's office, last year was like $2.3 million operating costs.
Yep.
That covers 30 part-time and full-time employees. All the operating costs of the jail, deputies' fuel, maintenance on vehicles, radios, food for inmates, medical supplies, anything that we might need over there comes out of one line item or another of that budget. I've been fortunate the last, 13 years that I've been sheriff that at the end of each budget year, there's been money remaining that gets returned to the county's general fund. That is made possible really by controlling overtime, try to take care of some of these little things before they become big things so that you have to put more resources onto them. And so cumulative up to last year's budget, that was about $1.1 million that's gotten returned to the county coffers over that period of time. So I plan on continuing to do that, although I'm not in control of everything. When the phone rings, sometimes it's all hands on deck and can be rather expensive. It also costs somewhere between $140,000 and $160,000 a month to operate the sheriff's office. And so on a $2.3 million budget, if I give back 4 or 5%, you're looking at around $100,000, maybe 80 to 100, 120, depending on the year. And so that's an awful lot of money, but I talked to Jim about this and maybe others too. If you break it down into each month, that remaining $100,000 or $120,000 is about 3 weeks of expenses for a county. So it's hard for me to budget it much closer than that and still be able to operate and not have to come back to you folks and say, I missed my mark, I need some more money, or we can't put gas in our cars. I've never had to do that, don't plan on doing it this year. Sometimes though, people's behavior dictates how much money comes out of my budget. Like incidents in Riceville this last year, that takes a lot of money. Not only the initial response, but the investigation and then time spent for court prep. So we try to avoid that stuff at all costs. So that's why guys are out doing what they do to prevent things escalating and not only causing, a more severe problem for a family, but also budget issues for me. So Pam, if you have any specific questions, I'll be happy to answer them or try to answer them for you. And anyone else?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Just talking about the K-9 recently and brought up, like, where is him in your budget? Like,
So
the person that.
yeah, there is not a specific line item for the K-9.
Okay.
So sometimes I will take vet bills out of miscellaneous expense line item that you might find in communications or jail.
Okay.
There was, when the K-9 was first established, it really operated off of donations.
Okay.
And if there's vet bills, I may take it out of medical line item for the jail. So it just really kind of depends on where there's money to allow me to pay for that bill at that time.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah, you won't see one specifically for the canine.
Is, on that note, is it possible, because I had the same question, is it possible to add a line item? Because we've had a canine now for a while,
Mhm.
so then maybe that makes those other areas a little less fuzzy,
Absolutely,
you
you
know?
can.
Or is that, because it sounds like that's something that we certainly want to continue
Yes.
to provide, and it's a great service and a great asset for our county.
Yes.
So I'm
So
wondering if maybe we should add a ledger account for
we can
that.
do that. I don't know that it can be done for this budget year. That's something I'd have to ask Rachel. But lines can be added or deleted.
Right.
I just didn't know if whoever the canine goes home with or works with,
Jack
if
Steinberg.
they pay for it personally and then they get reimbursed. Or
There is some of that, like the food that Jack buys for the canine. He'll pay for that 1 month himself and not ask for reimbursement. It's just his donation to the county.
Interesting.
And then I'll get a bill maybe the next month, and then the county pays for it. And so it's not that way every month, but Jack does it quite often. He just pays for it out of pocket. Mhm.
Is there a lot of canine expense? I mean, you have food and possible vet bills and.
That's it.
That's
Yeah,
really it.
That's all there is. The initial cost, of course, of
And our
$15,000.
initial training.
Yeah, so the training goes into that 15,000.
Right. Yep.
And then there's some equipment cost that goes in the car. So like a kennel, essentially for the dog to be in, and a remote popper that, essentially what that is, it allows the door to remotely open.
Yeah.
If Jack's, in a fight or has some issue that he needs the dog, he can just hit a button on his belt, remote pops. And then the other thing that's important to have for the canine is Jack has an app on his phone that senses temperature inside the vehicle. So if it gets too hot or too cold, Jack's aware of that and he can adjust temperatures for the dog.
Vehicle pretty much stays running all the time.
Pretty much. Yeah. If the dog's with Jack, the vehicle stays running. Yeah. He can bring him into the shop at night when he's working, of course, and the vehicle is shut off. But when it's below zero or days like today, the guys are in the office, you may see them running, because if they have to go on an emergency call and that truck's been sitting for 3 hours in 0-degree weather, and now they gotta run 100 miles an hour, it's kind of hard on things. So we don't wanna break something.
Right.
Right? So we just figured it's cheaper to keep them running, and it's been successful.
How many deputies do you have like running during the day and then at night, and how's your shift go?
Yeah, so we work based on a 10-week rotation. We have 6 deputies and they work 5 10-hour days. And then in the middle of that 10-week rotation, they have a 5-day break. And I might have misspoke, maybe I said 5 10-hour days. Actually, it's 6 on, 4 off. So it's 6 10-hour days and then 4 off. So during the day, like today, Monday, Tuesday, I just have 1 deputy and myself. And then on Wednesday, a second deputy is out working days for a week. And then next week, he's working Tuesday through Sunday or Monday because it's court service day. So Greg Hallback is assigned court service days, and they're always on a Tuesday. So his rotation is a little bit different. It's not always 6 and 4 because he needs to be back to work to handle court security and anything that the judges need. And he works a 10-hour day also. His shift will start at 7 in the morning, go to 5 in the afternoon. We have a shift that starts at 5 in the afternoon, goes till 3 in the morning with an overlap. So we have a graveyard car that comes on at 9 at night and works till 7 in the morning.
Okay, so there's one during the day all the time and then
Yes,
an overlap in the evenings where there's 2,
yes,
kind of.
kind of. Now, any department, whether it's the sheriff's office, police department, my jail, dispatch, in order to have 24/7 coverage, you need to have 7 full-time people. And obviously, I don't have that. So there are times where a deputy's home, but he's on call. And I don't want to say too much more because, just because, right? And so, we're able to take care of our business like that. We also have 4 part-time deputies. 2 of them are certified peace officers with the city of Osage that work for me. And then I have 2 that, actually 3, so 5 total. 3 that have been with the sheriff's office for a long time. Larry Moore, he's been with the sheriff's office for 36, 7 years as a reserve deputy. Brody Mitchell and Ashley Johnson. So they all do good work for us. They cover shifts, help cover vacations, summertime events. They're out. I'll have Ashley, because she doesn't have a full-time day job, oftentimes do inmate transports for me or mental health trips. So I don't have to lose the coverage of a full-time deputy or call somebody in. And I can do it at, half the hourly rate is what a full-time deputy would do. So I utilize them as best I can, where I can, to save that money and really not interrupt the coverage schedule or a deputy's personal schedule by calling them in.
I do know on, back to that K-9 on the line item, you might want to check with Rachel. A couple years ago, I sat in with the auditor and he mentioned the things about how we have a lot of line items. And I think you might have been in, remember that one, Kurt Yonker had a few dollars in one for years and years and kept wanting us to get rid of that.
And they took it out. I don't recall, Todd, but I know, I'm sure you do, so, yeah.
So I just know, if it's working, I mean, Rachel would probably answer that too, if we wanted to add one, but it's working with where you got it now. You might not want to put another.
Sure.
They were trying to get rid of some back a few years ago.
Rachel sent the chat. She said, we can add line items for anything that is requested. I think we should wait for our new, she put auditor, but I think it's supposed to be audit to come in and give us direction. The previous audit never questioned our line items like this. We have detailed reports that come in. So, I mean, I'm sure it could be done if it necessary.
So as long as we know that that's in that miscellaneous field is where those K-9 expenses, that was just my question as well. Was,
Sure.
Yeah.
It's odd if you put it in here one year and next year you put it in something else, because then you're wondering why this one go up and why this one go down.
Yeah, so Pam, also when I code bills, I have a coding sheet.
Yep.
With a code number on it, and that tells everyone that looks at those what line item that bill is being paid out.
Okay.
And sometimes, I'll use medical, for example, in the jail. We have an inmate that might come in that has heart issues, very expensive for the county to take care of, burn through that medical line item pretty quickly. But then I might see that I have $9,000 in a training budget for the deputies, and I might pay for something for that dog out of that training line.
Okay.
And then it's coded that way.
The IFRS went up like 48 to 50% straight across the board on all of these. And so that would be due to the 6% increase in salary, or, because that doesn't quite calculate
So,
out for me.
Yeah, for the deputies and the sheriffs, our contribution, yes, 6%, yes, that's
Yeah,
part of
yeah,
part of
no, I
the overall
understand that
increase.
calculation on the
But
salary.
also, IFRS contribution for the county and for the employee went up around 3%. Because
I wonder if they've got something.
the Sheriff's Association was successful in lobbying last year for an increase in sheriff and deputies' retirement. It went from 72%, high three for guys like myself,
Yeah.
to 80%, plus a 1.5% cost of living adjustment each year after you retire. So to offset that 8% increase statewide, employers' contribution and the, again, employees' contribution went up. I think we were at like 9, 3 or 4%. We're over 12 now.
Well, I'm looking at like the, what is that, first, second, third? It's under the IPERS part of the general supplemental fund. And we were at 19 last year, 9 the year before, 8 the year before that, and we jumped to 29.8.
Which page are you on now?
Yeah.
So I'm on
Page 4.
page 4, the very bottom
Oh, I
of page
see.
4.
Yep, I see.
And then if you follow suit, a couple pages later, on the rural basic, that one's up 44.63%.
Right.
I'm almost wondering if it causes me to wonder if we don't have something plugged in wrong rate
No,
wise.
because what else you have to consider here is not only is it baseline contribution increase from employers and employee and the salary increase, but you also pay that on overtime,
Right,
and you pay it, well, you don't pay it on my reserve folks, but when I figure my askings, I have to estimate how much overtime and holiday pay my office will have in a year. So it's clearly an estimate, but if you look at, I have used 38%
yeah, that,
of the 19% so far, right?
yeah,
And so if you run the numbers and you get out 12 months, say it's 76% of 19,000. So it's probably gonna be around $15,000, $16,000 that I'll use total this year of that 19.
Yep.
Right? So the 29,825 is figured on all the overtime, holiday pay, plus their base wages. But it's just an estimate because I don't know for sure how much overtime I'm gonna pay a deputy.
right,
And I don't know which deputies will get the holiday pay and which ones won't. So I estimated high, and then it's returned to the county at the end of the year.
right. Just in comparison to the wages,
Mhm.
the percentage up, just made me wonder if maybe we had, something plugged in wrong for that rate, because it's like 44%, 52%,
Mhm.
that,
And
it
they're-
just was a red flag
Yep.
for me,
And
just,
they're merely estimates,
yeah,
and you'll see at the end of the year, a remaining balance there
yeah,
that then gets returned.
because that really is the only one that, other than, a couple miscellaneous, raises a question
Right.
as to
Some years,
why so much higher.
yeah, some years, I estimate 10% in overtime based on the year prior. So 10% of whatever, $750,000, whatever these salaries are for our deputies, is a lot of money. Some years it's 15% because of what happened the year prior. But there again, those, it's like fuel prices. They're $3 today, they might be $4 in 2 months, depending on what happens in the world. Those are some things I can't control. So it is estimated high,
Okay.
absolutely is. But
Yeah.
whatever isn't spent, it'll be returned. Yeah. I hope that that's not all spent. I guess I'll say that.
That's all the questions
I think
I have.
one thing I just wanted to make note is with my communications folks, I chose not to raise any of the askings there because the year prior, I wasn't paying out sick time and I wasn't paying out overtime. And the percentage shows me that there's enough in that, even with raises, even with the IPERS, all those increases, I still have enough money in that line item. So I chose not to increase it this year and I think I'll be fine there.
So, you want to talk about, IT,
Sure.
because you wanted to talk about having your own IT service, so that means money and, What are your thoughts and what?
Yeah, here's my thought. So obviously I shared the email that I don't have Pam's email. I need to get that.
Yeah,
I certainly would have included you and maybe the other supervisors already have. So my thought, Jim, is our problems are getting resolved, okay? But my plan is to include Ryan moving forward if he wants to be included. So Casey Kettleson worked for the county prior, and he had a good handle on what was going on at the sheriff's office. I talked to Casey as late as Friday afternoon about coming in, working with Ryan for X number of hours until he gets a better feel for what's going on in that sheriff's office and how it operates. Obviously, with Ryan's response to my email, there's a lot of work there that needs to be done, right? If the dust is stacking up, it's stacked up for the last year, that's his job. And if computers are getting stacked on top of each other and power cords are being plugged into power cords, he needs to fix that stuff. We are not IT over there. My people can run the radios. They shouldn't be unplugging stuff and hoping it reboots. And if servers are out of date, somebody needs to replace those before they go down. That is not for me to watch. I wouldn't know what I'm looking at. That's when we have IT. So my thought is, if the board would be willing to hire Casey for 160 hours, that's 1 month. Now, Casey can't work 8-hour days because he has a full-time job. So it may be 2 hours one day, it might be 3 hours, it might be 5 hours, but 100 or not to exceed 160 hours. The average IT salary in the state of Iowa, I've looked a couple of different times, it's right at $100,000. So that's $50 an hour that we pay Casey for those 160 hours or not to exceed 160. And let Casey and Ryan get together. Casey can come into the sheriff's office. He had internet working in that whole building. He can handle all the server information that we need to update or not update or whatever IT stuff needs to be done. We had some computers go down over the weekend. And I think after that, or my thought is, after that 160 hours, and I'm just talking over there, not in the courthouse, not in home health, secondary roads, just in my office, that he should have a better feel for what's going on over there.
So when Casey was the IT person, did Joel also come in and help Casey with things over there, or was that when Casey was on?
Deployed.
When he was deployed, he didn't make that there then, but Casey told me he had everything running smooth at the sheriff's office, courthouse, secondary roads, and home health when he was here. And he had time left in the week to help the city on some of their issues. And he did that. I recall him working for the city and he kind of shared his knowledge between the city and the county. So I want to draw back on that because he knows what we do over there. Pay him, and my budget can probably offset that fee if the board is willing to do that. I guess I want to include Ryan. I don't want Ryan to not come to work and get fired or him and I butt heads, but when I can't get people their mental health hearings, jail inspector doesn't like that. And he doesn't care if we're in a building that's concrete. Those hearings have to be done. They have to work every time.
Well, when we had the discussion at that last meeting, I mean, we were trying to move in a positive direction. It sounds like you're trying to move in a positive direction. It's not a head-butting thing, as you said, but it's something where we need to figure something out.
Yeah, I don't think I'm being unreasonable to ask for my stuff to work. That's all I want. I just want it to work, all right?
Okay.
So that's my thoughts. You guys can talk about that. You guys can reach out to Casey or I will. You'll have to give me direction on that if you decide that's what you want to do. If there's other options, I'm open to listening to those too. But, my stuff has to work.
I'm not prepared give an answer now, maybe somebody else is, but I'd like to think about it, and people talk, and we can figure it out and discuss it.
Yeah, none of us really had a long time to think about it because it's Friday afternoon and now it's Monday morning, but, I think that's an opportunity for us. Casey said he didn't want to come in and undermine what Ryan has done, but he can help him and probably make things better. So it's an opportunity if the board wants to discuss that.
Would it be possible for you to put together maybe just a brief little list, keeping in mind, I wasn't on an email, but, maybe a top 5 issues that you've had here? Because I know you talked about it last week, and so kind of we know what those top 5 or top 10, whatever,
Sure.
issues, challenges that you had, so that we can work with, Ryan, of course, and kind of grow those talents as well,
Absolutely.
and
Be happy
be
to.
supportive that way. So
Yeah, I can do that.
that would be great.
Any other questions for Sheriff? Oh. Thank you
Okay.
for coming today.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you for your department.
No, I can.
Good morning.
Morning. Budget for community service, substance abuse, county services, juvenile budget. Good morning. Where would you like to start?
You all have copies? Okay. We'll start with Department 12, Community Services. So kind of standard, no real changes this year. We're coming in pretty close on everything. You'll notice our funerals so far this fiscal year are high. I think it shows we've used 73%, but this past year was a little unique and we had 2 families pay back the funeral expenses, which doesn't happen very often, and that's not reflected on that. One of them, I think, was from this last fiscal year and one was from the prior fiscal year, so that's not reflected there, but other than that, we'd really just like to keep the budget the same because, as we know, it's a pretty unpredictable department. And last year we did come pretty close to using our full budget. We're kind of seeing an uptick right now that's pretty common after the first of the year. And then we'll see another uptick in April when energy assistance through LIHEAP Community Action, when their moratorium period ends, we see people come in for that energy assistance again. Right now they're protected and utilities can't be shut off. But April, usually we see that big uptick in utility use. Are there any questions on that one?
Funerals are capped at 1,800 or something, right?
We have an agreement with the funeral home for 1,800, and that's burial or cremation. It includes some very basic services, like graveside service. It has to be Monday through Friday, no holidays or weekends. Kind of like if they're getting buried, a very basic casket, a very basic container for cremains. So 1,800 includes all of that.
Yep, and I was just gonna say, that's with all the funeral homes in Mitchell County.
And like when we've had Mitchell County residents get buried at like Mason City or over at like the Charles City Funeral Home, they have accepted that as well. If they're Mitchell County residents, we're responsible for that burial regardless of where, as long as that funeral home will accept our agreement.
Like Ashley indicated, we do have a clause about like if with the estate and everything, if there's money in that for them to pay back. And that's why we've seen a few of those come through. Again, we don't see that very often, but it has, so that was very nice and we appreciate that. When families reach back out to us later.
Just curious of how many years do you recall it's been at that 1,800? A long time.
It has been 1,800 a long time. But I will say that we are actually, it is actually higher than like our surrounding counties. Of course, County Social Services serves 11 other counties. So, some are, some counties only do 1,000. Some 1,800 is about the most I've seen.
It's more than like Cerro Gordo, I think they're 1,000, Flood County's 1,000. So our 1,800 for county assistance is generous compared to what you walk in the door funeral home price. No, like they're probably losing some costs.
Yeah, $1,800 anymore is just not much for anything. So,
Right.
Yeah, definitely not for funeral services.
Right.
We did add that food and provisions. We hadn't really been using it, and then we started running into some issues with people needing food, and either they had used the food bank or food bank wasn't open and we couldn't access it. So we have started issuing grocery cards periodically for the grocery store in town. We have stipulations on that with you can't buy gambling products, tobacco, alcohol. And then we have started requiring them to bring their receipts back to us as a way for us to kind of monitor that a little bit. It's kind of spoken to them. If they don't return their receipts, they won't be able to access that type of assistance again. It just gives us a little bit more control over, we handwrite on the gift card that they can't buy those things, but obviously every cashier is not going to check and make sure like, oh, this says you can't. So having those receipts allows us to monitor that, make sure that that money is spent acceptably.
Do most of them return the receipts?
I think we've only had one that hasn't.
That's pretty good.
Your rent assistance is at what, 32%? Is that kind of on the norm or?
For where we're at in the fiscal year, I can't say for sure if that's trending with typical. Like I said, we're seeing an uptick just this last month with people coming in after the holidays and first of the year. But I hated to decrease it at all, knowing last year we almost spent that full 10,000.
Right.
Which was the most we had spent in a few years. So I didn't really feel comfortable decreasing that at all at this point.
And just so you know, Pam, so the way that the general assistance works, so we can assist up to 2 times in a fiscal year, so July 1 to January 30th, or to June 30th. And so, and we track that when they've used, the first assist, second assist. So it's not like long-term or anything like that. It's just up to 2 times in a year. So, and with rent, we have a landlord form that we ask individuals to have go and take that to their landlord so they understand what it is we're authorizing. And I mean, we've looked at fair market value for rent, like here in Mitchell County for one person, it's like $400. Now rent, of course, is a lot of times higher than that. So we work with individuals to like, what is your plan? If your rent's $700, how are you going to come up with that other $300? And if there's not a concrete plan in place, then we don't approve the $400. So there's a lot of back and forth and communication with landlords, things like that we go through to get even, one of the claims approved. So just so you understand kind of how that works.
Yeah.
And I should also explain, like, this program is for low income and needy individuals, so they have to meet an income limit to qualify for these funds.
Right.
So it's 150% of the federal poverty level to be able to access these funds. And then as Megan was sharing about the landlords, when somebody is approved, the county pays the landlord directly. So it's not like we're handing out cash or
Okay,
to individuals. It goes directly to the landlord.
figured that with the form. That's-
Yeah.
Okay. Thank
And
you.
also like these funds, if there's money left in this account at the end of the fiscal year, it stays with the county. We don't like pool it and carry it over to next year. It goes back to the
Goes
county,
back.
whatever's not spent.
Oh.
Any questions? We can look at Department 53, substance abuse.
Let's back up just a second.
Yep.
Community services revenue, let's see, am I reading this right? 3,600 last year, this year.
So that 3,600, that is showing the payback from the funerals.
Gotcha. You probably said that and I didn't hear it.
No, I didn't, so that's what that is. So we never anticipate that payback
Okay.
or budget for it. Okay, substance abuse, Department 53. So again, very similar in that it's unpredictable what expenses are going to come to us for the most part. Right now, we haven't had to touch this budget. These things, it may be like a sheriff transport. If a sheriff somebody's getting committed for substance abuse and the sheriff either has to transport them to the hospital or even issue an order to somebody saying they need to seek treatment, we'll get those fees from the sheriff, and we would pay that out of this budget. If they have an attorney representing them or a court-appointed attorney, we would get those bills as well. And then treatment services related to commitment. Now, again, with the county being funder of last resort, if an individual has private insurance or Medicaid, we would not pay those hospital bills.
Right.
And the hospital's pretty good about individuals who show up at the hospital without insurance, applying them for Medicaid so that it goes back and covers that. So right now we haven't touched that. Used very little the last fiscal year as well. So, but again, it's one of those things where we don't know when those bills are gonna show up. The opioid money is also included in this, and I had asked Rachel to complete that portion because the auditor's office manages the opioid dollars. So I don't know if she filled that in on the bottom portion of that budget or not.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's down there.
Okay,
she put 42,000.
yep, I wasn't sure where those dollars were sitting. That is, the opioid dollars have also kind of decreased some of the expense on the top half of the budget. We used to pay for Prime for Life out of the top half, and now we've been able to take that out of the opioid dollars.
So she put a total of 48,000 for the whole.
I have last year's here too, and that line, did we only spend $349 of that money last year for,
Which line, Todd?
the local government opioid abatement treatment services? Like 24-25 shows $349. Oh, actually, maybe we had to,
It looks like we've only used 4% of it so far this year.
and now I go back onto this year's sheet, the last year was $13.69, is that correct?
That's what it looks like
So
for this
yeah,
year.
It's this
This year.
Yeah, this was probably what you guys brought to us a year ago, and then, okay, we're good, sorry.
And I serve on the Substance Abuse Coalition, so I do know that they've used some of the opioid dollars for like advertisements with at Watts Theater, or we just recently approved something for advertisements on like Saints TV. So there are some things that I know that they're using for that. It's just we don't manage that within our office, so.
I would assume that she has that, so and I know she's listening, that she can document that it's been expensed out, and then probably in the 99s, it probably transfers from there. So it's,
Yep.
it's coming from a source.
Any questions on that one?
And I just was gonna mention with the substance abuse, just so you know, that the reason why we don't see a whole lot is because if a person has mental health and substance abuse, we are able to use our mental health budget for that. And that is very common for people to have co-occurring disorders. So, for this particular budget, a person has to only have substance abuse diagnosis. So that's why we do see, minimal activity with that, because we are capturing those individuals and committals and stuff if they're duly diagnosed.
In the mental health side of it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you for that clarification.
John?
Okay. We'll go to Department 61, juvenile budget. Okay, so starting at down on the juvenile court services, you'll notice this year, it shows 178% of that top line has been used. That was just an error. We get a bill from Saragordo County Attorney and then Juvenile Court Services through the state to pay for those. And one should be taken out of that top line and one out of the next line. So that's why it's showing we're over in that one line, but they really can be split into those two lines. So those are set bills that we can expect every year, one from Saragordo County, one from the state, and it's to pay for those juvenile court services. Then the rest of it, again, another unpredictable one. These are paying for kiddos who end up in juvenile court, like detention services. And like you'll see last year, we maxed out and used that full amount for our juvenile detention services. This year we're doing pretty good. I think we only have one kiddo in detention services right now that I'm still seeing bills come in for. And actually it's just been medication bills that we've been seeing. So he may be one that the state is funding some of his services.
Pam, that's one of your meetings, so.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yep, so we're contracted with Central Iowa Juvenile Detention Services and North Iowa Juvenile Detention Services. By contracting with them, we get a little bit better rate when we do have kids go there. But our juvenile court officer kind of manages all of that as far as where the kids are at or where they're going, how they're doing there. He kind of manages all of their services while we're there, and we just get the bills for that.
yeah, especially with those services, we have to pool our resources with other counties and other areas
Yeah,
It's a very costly service. So.
right,
Mhm.
yeah,
it adds up quick.
and,
Mhm.
yeah.
I think right now it's about I think the rate is $150 a day is pretty typical for that detention service when a kid is there. So if they're there 30 days, it's a decent bill that we're seeing. And again, same with substance abuse. This is the same thing. If there's money left in this budget, it doesn't pool for next year. It
Comes
just
back.
goes back to the county. Any questions? Does she have us with Department 55, the county services building? Okay. I don't know if she made any changes to that. I had left it all the same, but I had asked Rachel and Dave to see, I don't know if they have any building projects planned. It's all the same. Okay. That would be the only thing, is if any projects came up or within that building, there'd maybe be changes, but otherwise it's been pretty standard. This is just to manage the building, the supplies for the building, the phone and utilities, any repairs that might come up. The one thing I assume if home health does the windows, all that will be covered under the AARP dollar, or the ARP dollars?
Yes.
Okay, that was the only project that I could think potentially would need to be captured, but.
I don't think your site gets windows.
We're not,
No,
yeah.
it's their side, so you wouldn't have to pay for it.
I contacted them, they said they didn't, you were happy.
Yeah, we're fine.
The only thing would be the link system.
The phone system.
Would that be any extra cost
Are we changing
if you, or do you get the,
the panic?
panic button?
Yeah, but I think we've already paid for, because CSS paid for part of it, home health, and then we took a portion out of this.
There's a problem with some of those not actually working. Did that affect you also, or are you up and going on this?
No, we're not up and going. We haven't seen it.
No, we haven't seen
Okay.
them yet, so.
All
I
right.
think we're still waiting. I think some equipment had to be sent back, and then we're still waiting on.
Okay.
Getting the
So that was
equipment and getting it.
My next question for you was your IT services, if you're having any challenges or concerns.
So County Social Services, we contract with NGT, Next Generation Technologies. So they're our IT provider. But yeah, so like, but if it's something with the building or, Ryan would be, I know we've been communicating back and forth with Ryan with this link system and stuff, but yeah, we haven't seen, so right now we have no security. We have no panic buttons or anything and haven't since that all started, so. But yeah, whenever they come in,
Yes.
we'd appreciate it because we have had to use them in the past from
Right.
time to time and just, population we serve, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyone have any more questions?
I do want to just kind of have a brief conversation with you about our future with county social services. So that's, we're a mental health and disability service region. We, like I had indicated, we serve 12 counties for mental health disability services. And we are, the state has made some changes in legislation for regions to sunset as of June 30th of 2025. So this year here in 6 months. So we, County Social Services, we bid for 2 RFPs. The first one was for behavioral health services. So kind of like what we do, we bid to manage those services for our district area, which the state rearranged from regions to districts. So there was an additional 5 counties added to our district that most of our counties are in. So we bid for that, and we did hear back that we did not get the RFP. So we will not be managing, County Social Services will not be managing behavioral health services in this area. So the RFP was awarded to Iowa Primary Care Physicians Group. They were awarded the state to manage the state. So they will be a statewide agency managing behavioral health services for Iowa. So there will be some changes with that, as you can imagine, and we're just want to prepare the individuals that we serve. They're a priority, and things may look different as far as we're fortunate at County Social Services in having presence in all 12 of our counties. We have offices, so local access, and we do know that can be it can be a barrier for people to come into our office for assistance, even if they live in town. So, so we hope that access will still be there, and people will continue to be served in the capacity that they are. So, so just wanted to let you know that. But we've also bid for another RFP for disability services. So that's our other population that we serve. So your intellectual disabilities, brain injuries, developmental disability individuals. So we sent that in December, and we will hear by February 21st who gets awarded for that. So we did actually bid for statewide, because the state had told us we're looking for they really encouraged us to any bidders who were bidding to even after the RFP had opened, then they said we really encourage statewide. So they gave us an opportunity to bid statewide after we after a few weeks. So we did that, and we're waiting to hear back. So there are 4 other contenders who are bidding as well for statewide. So so our future is unknown. And so just with that, I just wanted to let you know. So of course, we manage the general assistance, juvenile, and substance abuse budgets that we just went over today. And so not sure what that's going to look like. We've been asking all along, before we started this process, if the new behavioral health ASOs, if they're able to do that, if the disability service access points are able to do that. We've not gotten a clear answer from the state. So even if we get the disability RFP, we're not sure if this is something that the state's going to allow us to do in addition. So I know we've had conversations and kind of communicated that with you guys, but just so you know, it may be, this all may be changing, and so yeah. So just wanted to make you aware and be mindful of what that's going to look like for the counties.
So that, of course, will possibly impact the kinds of services that we've been able to so wonderfully provide, and
Yeah, and so
And
the way that it, the way that when county social services formed into a region, it just made sense for us to do this because we're there, we're in the building, people knew that we were doing it before.
Yeah.
And so we just have an agreement with all of our the counties, I should say. There's 4 counties in our region that county social services does GA for. Because some of the other areas of our region, other agencies do it, like Community Action and some different agencies. So it just made sense for us because we're there, people know we're there, they know how to contact us, and it's worked out great. It's just, it is it's not obviously a full-time job, it's just when people come in, we're there to help. So, but just want you all to be aware that our future is unknown. And so,
sad to see.
To ask it a different way, so you didn't get the first RFP, it's gonna be a statewide managed system. And are you saying, bluntly asking, that you two might not be in that building anymore? And where would the statewide system set up shop for Mitchell County? I mean.
So that's correct.
Okay.
County social services would end June 30th. There may be a little transition period there, but bluntly speaking, if we did not, it would end June 30th. The one that was awarded behavioral health, their original plan, I don't know if that will change, but it shows like a location in Marshalltown for this district, Marshalltown, to cover this district. That's their office location. So,
Yeah, so what people
I
here are
agree.
gonna go to Marshalltown to,
Right.
that's ridiculous. You know what I'm saying. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
and again, that was indicated in their RFP, which they made public, of course, once after they were awarded. So, I mean, that could change, but that's where they indicated for locations in their RFP. So,
I hope that doesn't happen.
So unfortunately, like many things, they're taking our ability to serve our community right out of our hands. And I had heard that this was a possibility, and it's like, how, especially this population, what are we thinking? It makes no sense.
yeah, we're remaining hopeful for the disability RFP. We hope that if CSS was awarded the disability one, that would allow for continued presence in our county. But with that being unknown, just wanted on your guys' mindset, because then there may need to be changes to the budget. If you need to, somebody's gonna have to manage these departments and take over some of those costs. But we didn't really know how to put that in the budget at this point, with it still being unknown.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
I hope that works out.
Appreciate all you
We'll keep
do.
you guys in the loop.
Absolutely.
Thank you for what you do.
Yes,
Thank you, guys.
absolutely.
Good day. You as well, thank you.
Two.
Are they?
Good morning.
Morning,
Good morning.
good morning, ladies and, you guys.
Us, everyone.
Whoa. This thing moves on me. Okay. There's not much change in my budget from last year. A little change in the general basic fund for office supplies. Everything else has pretty much stayed the same, except for the wages that went up 3.3%. For a total budget of 49,749. Concerning the $10,000 that we get from the state, it all depends on us, how much we spend of that $10,000 by the end of the year. And right now, we're probably halfway there. We've got to find something to spend more money on to use up that $10,000, because they've knocked out using wages. But I'll talk it over with my commissioners and see what happens, see what we can come up with on that list, and we'll go from there. We have not had any, knock on wood, indigent burials, which the funeral home does not like, because we give out a flat $1,800. And Bookite didn't like it. This new guy doesn't like it, but that's the way it is.
The county social services also, they do $1,800.
Say again, I can't.
The county social services, the gals that were here, they do $1,800 burials. So
Right.
is that the same 1,800, or do you have a different?
Oh, no, we budget for $3,600 for two out of our budget.
Okay.
If we exceed that, then social services picks up. They may have an indigent burial or two that's non-veteran.
Gotcha.
Okay, that's where that would come in. You know, they have their own to pay for non-veterans, and we've got for veterans or widows of veterans. But if we exceed that 3,600, then it goes back to social services, because we've got no funds left for it.
Okay.
And we can't use the $10,000 for that. It's not in service of the veterans. Not just for the burial. We can't use anything for the burial on that $10,000 grant.
That was just mine. So I just have a quick question on your general services care of graves. It looks like the one year we didn't have anything, but we're averaging like nearly 18.
Okay, dependent upon the number of grave markers that we give up from the county,
Right.
the stick flag markers.
Yep.
Okay, you know,
Yep.
from,
Absolutely.
depending upon the number that we have available, depends upon how many we order from,
Okay,
Centec,
okay.
okay?
So you must have had some coming into this year, so that's why that went, because I'm wondering why we would go below kind of our average there.
Yeah, well, that's, the reason being is,
Okay,
it just depends how many burials we have, how many are veterans.
gotcha.
You know, we haven't
So
had,
that'll flux depending on inventory and how many burials.
right, how many veteran burials we've got. I know of two. One will be eminent. He's in the nursing home under hospice. And I've got a lady from your neck of the woods coming in this week to see me. It's an old friend. I know her and her husband. But one thing that you probably don't know, when we have an indigent burial, we will prepare the paperwork and give it to the auditor. That information is close hold.
Yep.
You guys, my commissioners, nor you will have any knowledge of who it is,
Yep. Okay.
okay?
No, that answers my question, Larry. I wondered why we dropped down, but if you have some, why, that would explain that, so.
Yeah.
Oh.
Is there any other questions?
So the stipulations on how you use that $10,000, you've got some hoops to jump through there, I suppose.
Yeah, we've got some hoops to
They-
jump through.
Some things that they're not gonna let you use that for.
Yeah, we used to be able to use,
Which,
$4,000 in wages,
yeah,
because that's serving a veteran.
absolutely.
If I use all the phone calls that I get after hours and charge 1 hour of pay, it might come up to a few thousand, but,
Well, like you say, we certainly don't wanna lose that.
well, no, but I mean, if we have to give some back, we have to give some back. I mean, that's,
Could we look into incorporating that with, right now, we give money to cemeteries in the county for veterans. Isn't that what they have so many veteran graves, they get,
you get $5, right?
anyway, we could use some of that money.
No.
We can't use it on graves, is that what you said? Yeah,
We've gotta use it for the active, the current veterans and or spouses.
okay. So,
Maybe we can get some kind of packets to give out to the veterans, have them there, so we can, every time a veteran comes in, we can give them one. That's an idea, but,
so like the veterans' activities at Osage or St. Ansgar or Riceville, whatever, can you donate some of that to those? You can't do it that way either. Wow.
We use it for transportation costs for a veteran that wants to go to either
Oh,
a
absolutely.
place to be looked at. They need to go to Mason, they need to go to Marshalltown, Twin Cities, Des Moines.
I'd have to look on the list. I don't know about that. I can't answer that, Jim.
Yeah, just thought, something to look at.
Or the honor flight? Is that somewhere where that we could use that to help those that are going on
I don't
honor
know.
flight? That might be,
That I can't answer.
Okay.
Without going back over that list.
sure.
Just ideas.
Couple ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Anything from you, Sid?
I'm good.
You're good.
Yeah.
That's not what your mother says. I won't say what your daughter calls you. Mommy.
Which one?
Gentlemen, anything here? What's all that paint you've got in your hair?
My kids and you.
Any more questions? I think we're all good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Larry.
Yep.
Thank you.
Have a good
You
day.
guys be good now.
You too.
We'll try.
Jim, please don't lead Pam astray.
I noticed you said gentlemen and you didn't look at me at the last one.
Well,
I'm already out.
no, you're let out of jail. You're out of jail now, but just don't lead her astray.
Yeah.
All right.
You already led Sid astray. No, she's already been led astray.
They're pretty strong babies.
Yeah, I know. Take care.
Bye, Larry.
Bye-bye.
General budget discussion.
Come down for that?
And for you guys to adjourn.
Okay, okay.
And stop the recording.
Good. I want it on the agenda just so that if there's any questions or thoughts that the board has after each one of these meetings, we can just, talk about something.
It was on Friday.
Yeah, I didn't get it on there in time. Yeah.
Ooh,
Any thoughts or questions?
be really sad for community service to leave.
Yeah.
Is the public allowed
Is the public allowed?
in discussion?
It's up to the chair.
Sure,
Sure.
the only public here.
The sheriff was asking for a request today to fix a problem that he has. And it's obviously very frustrating. Are these the same servers that are sitting on Iraq that been sitting there for 30 days and it took a long time to get them here, all of that? The same servers that we're talking about, the sheriff's talking about today?
I know he's got two servers over there. I don't know how long they've been sitting there. I don't know that.
I hope you do consider his request to get this functioning. Sheriff's Department crosses a lot of territory. It involves a lot of other departments in the county. And if you're not reporting on time, and all kinds of other things, it needs to be fixed.
We'll have to put it on the agenda for next week.
Rachel, with consular services, there was talked about there's a line item that you put in there for the opioid money. And does that, so I don't have a problem with it, I just want to talk about it. You put in there 42,000 for opioid abatement and then 6,000 for treatment services. So is that something that you have in there to show that it went out? And then the opioid fund, how does that plug it back in?
So that's all opioid money. That's if you guys come up with something. So that doesn't touch any of our normal, basic general supplemental money. I think we have like, I could be wrong, 70-some thousand sitting in that fund right now.
Okay.
The 6,000, that's the line item that they take to do the ads, like at the theater. I'd like to assume that they're gonna probably keep updating those quarterly or so. I think they maybe talked about then, I think they're maybe doing Saints TV too, I don't know if they donate money to do that, and then they were maybe talking about doing the Osage Network one as well. I didn't know how much they would be paying to do some of that, so that's what that 6,000 is.
Okay.
But the other, I mean, we can decrease that amount too if there's no plan, but that's,
But it's not really an asking of the people because the opioid fund, it's a flip.
it's money we already have.
It's self-funded, correct? Through the lawsuits?
Yeah.
With the,
So you take it out of the opioid, when this gets expensed, you take it out of the opioid fund and put it back into, I mean, it's,
I just take it directly from the opioid.
yeah, okay.
Yeah,
This just shows that there's something going out.
yes.
Okay.
And I don't know how much to budget for the revenue because some of them paid their upfront, they paid like a 5 years worth from the lawsuit. Then there's a couple where we get like smaller amounts, maybe like $1,000 or so. And they're doing theirs yearly. And then it seems like other people just keep adding to the lawsuit, different companies, so that's what I'm guessing number two.
All right. Some of the board members here remember last year, and we updated our renewal plan, and through that, we funded the fair board and the libraries and economic development. And that totaled just over $300,000 that we didn't ask the people for. It was the wind turbines that were actually funding those departments. So if we're going to consider to do that again, it's something that we'll have to update the urban renewal amendment again this year if we want to fund those departments in that way. to me, I would like to do that because it's not a tax asking of the people. So,
So they signed the TIF funding thing last year, correct?
who's they?
The library, the fair board,
There had to be,
you have to have
there
a
had to be,
contract up front,
they had to demonstrate that they were a positive economic impact to the town.
right?
And they did that. So by doing that, you can use Iowa Code 15 in order to justify using TIF money for that. They were funded on, last year it was an internal loan and an outside funding source.
Yeah.
They were funded with the internal loan, which was about $1.4 million. We basically borrowed from ourselves.
Yeah.
And the turbine money can pay those funding sources. There were 3 funding sources in the county that were used as the funding source. The turbine money is paying those 3 sources back 5% interests.
Right.
So we're gonna end up 5% healthier when it gets paid back, and they were short-term loans.
So they're only for a year.
I don't recall, I think the other one was 2, the outside was 2 years, the internal I don't recall.
I think 15 months.
Was it? Okay.
15 or 18.
But only for a year is that you could do the urban renewal amendment and fund those for like a 3-year period if you wanted to. But this time we just did it for a year, so we have to do it again for this year if we are going to go that direction.
We won't have to, they're already in the urban renewal area, so that, we won't have to redo that again, will we?
No, for the park, if, correct, like the libraries, they were put in, we got permission from the cities to include them in our urban renewal area, that's required. And those parcels were put into the urban renewal area, so they're already in there, so that does not have to be done. And correct me if I'm wrong on anything, so
No,
I mean,
you're
you're
right,
part of this
you-
process too.
As long as the parcels are already in there, which in secondary roads, all the roads are in there, now you have economic development and the fair board, you just have to put in, projects. Is that the right word, I think?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't have to go through all the extra cost and money and time to do all that. It's already set, so if we wanted to do it, all we would have to do is have public hearings and all that.
Yeah. And,
Right.
and conservation, and, we still have other departments that are gonna become visiting us. Conservation and the road department are 2 of them.
Sure.
They may have projects that they are interested in that are beneficial, so, I mean, they may speak to that, and so there might be, in that urban renewal amendment, there might be more than just these 3 departments. There may be projects that would be included also, but that depends on what they have to say.
So that was the 275,000 to the fair board, correct? Isn't that 270?
35,000 and 770,000.
Or 770, sorry about that.
The one was funding their department and the other one was the building for 770. The libraries are about 173. The economic development is 97,750.
Any other discussion?
I do have one, I didn't want to ask the, home health and public health, but, because I don't know if they would even know, but we talked about a new phone system. Did that include that building?
Yeah.
Okay. Cause I think they have some funding on there for stuff like that, and
I don't think that time, yeah, they probably do.
If they're.
correct.
Yeah, that's a sad,
That's,
I know.
it is.
it's,
Go to Marshalltown managing, that's ridiculous.
and for a lot of those, issues, they have to try to get online and,
Yeah,
you know, how frustrating.
yeah.
How totally frustrating. And, really, other than supplying, like you say, rides or, those kinds of services, our hands are, would soon be tied, which is just a shame.
Removing local control.
Anyone want to talk about the sheriff and the IT situation, or just want to put on the agenda for next week for discussion, possible action?
I think it'd be good to get it on the agenda to do it. I would, I'm gonna talk to Ryan also, not that I'm going to go by if he says no, I'm not going to. I wanna talk with him and hear what he has to say, but also the department needs to work. And, I would hope everybody talks with Ryan to say, what's going on? What do you think about this? Well, and then we can talk about it at a meeting.
So coming in new, so Ryan, of course, answers to this group. So do we do any kind of employee evaluation type
It's
of
on
thing?
for tomorrow.
And that's on for tomorrow, and that's a public type of thing? Is that my
we're going
understanding?
to-
Because that seems,
No. So we're gonna talk and discuss about having Joe Roney come in and do a performance review on
okay,
the ITC,
ICIP.
that he put together. He wants to go through the list and make sure Ryan is actually completing that list when he came in and did a review of what
the job was,
going
because,
wrong. So if that gets approved tomorrow, we'll have Joel Roney come in and do that, but that's his review on what he put together for our county to function as an IT, but.
for the job, the position, the workload itself. So we take that recommendation or that evaluation. This is not something that we are actively participating
involved
in,
with.
just a meeting of,
What you were kind of getting at is kind of odd to have a employee review in a
Right.
public setting.
Right.
That's what you're
Oh,
doing.
Right.
sorry, yeah.
I'm concerned that direction.
And this would not be correct.
No.
Sydney?
No.
Those should be a private thing with those.
Right, yes,
Right.
this one will be private with Joel, and then he'll give us a
Okay.
report.
And
If we wanted to do one of ourselves, we would give Ryan the option, have it either open session or closed session,
Okay, that's my,
right? If we wanted to do a public review of him,
Have to see if the code says you can do that for that. I don't remember.
but talking about security issues and
right,
all of that, you would probably want it.
right.
Is
I just,
it on for action for tomorrow then? There's
Tomorrow's just the Joel Roney possible discussion of possible action.
it has possible action, okay. All right.
sorry, I'm even jumping.
No, we're good.
Fine.
Any more questions, comments, concerns? No? Mark? Anything? Todd?
Okay.
All right. Meeting adjourned at 10:19.